There is violence in this book. It does talk about rape and murder. There is like forms of torture in here. So if those are things that are really triggering for you, this probably wouldn't be a really good book for you to read. But if you're really into thrillers, this would be a great one for you. Hi everyone, I'm going to do a book review today on a book called Escaped by Iain Wright. You follow a young woman in her early 20s. Her name is Cheryl, and one of her co-workers call her Share Bear. She's been working at a company for about 3-4 months, and they decide to do an escape room. Now, originally, she wasn't invited to the company retreat. It was more for people who had been there longer, but Maggie, another female coworker, tells her that she's unable to go, that her husband got her tickets to a play that she wanted to see, so could Cheryl take her spot. Now, Cheryl is kind of like a yes person, and she feels not really compelled, but, she's like, well, I don't really have anything else to do. I don't really want to go, but I will go. So Cheryl ends up going with she drives there with one of the other co-workers who is kind of like a weird dude. He like hits on her all the time and calls her Share Bear even though she doesn't like it. And he's just like, one of those guys at the office that's just, you kind of get like a weird feeling about, or that you think is kind of strange, or he's just kind of goofy. And when they get there is Maggie, who is the girl or the woman who originally told Cheryl she didn't want to be there. And, come to find out, like, Maggie just didn't want to be the only woman there. And I can't really blame her because there was, like, 4 or 5 other dudes. And Maggie was, like, the only female, So I can kind of understand why she'd feel a little uncomfortable. So where they go for the escape room is out in the country. They end up on a farm in an open field. There's a note saying that they have to leave like all their possessions behind, which makes sense because you don't want to be able to use your phone to cheat in the escape room. And when they do that, they go to like a hole in the ground and they get to climb on in. When everyone is in the escape room, the latch closes and the ladder breaks. So they are stuck inside. Now, the thing is for most escape rooms, no one gets hurt. In this book with this escape room, there is people getting hurt all the time. This is not an escape room that you would expect to happen. This is like the worst case scenario where, people are dying, people are getting hurt. It's a really good story. I really enjoyed reading it because I haven't read a thriller in a long time, at least not like a thriller book. I think it was very well written too. And the reason everyone is trapped here and why they are going through this horrible experience is because there's a murderer among them. Not only is there a murderer among all the co-workers, there is, also a liar, and there's a rapist. So whoever is keeping them held captive in this escape dungeon, basically, wants people to come forward and admit their sins. Now, naturally, people aren't coming forward and confessing their sins. So slowly, or not really that slowly, but one by one ends up dying or bad things happen to them. So I definitely thought this was an interesting read. This was the first escape room read I have done, and I really enjoyed it. And it's nice at the end, there's kind of a hint that another follow-up book might be possible. I do think it was rather thrilling. It's suspenseful. You kind of wonder who the murderer is, and you get information that is surprising. Most of the time, like when you are reading a book or you're listening to the audiobook, you kind of have a feeling who the killer is. Now, I was wrong on who the killer was, but I was right on who one of the real bad guys was. So I was like, hey, I got something right. But it is really fantastic. The author does a fantastic job at connecting all the links together and having everything make sense. Like, you could tell that the author did a lot of thinking on how they were going to have it be the way it was and explaining it in a way where it makes sense instead of, you know, you being like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why is it like that? So they did a good job. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.